This is Jingle, Jangle, Jingle, written in 1942 by Joseph Lilley and Frank Loesser. It's made famous by Kyser and Ritter and many other people. I play it in the key of G, and it's basically a 1-4-5, so it's just a G, a C, and a D. The intro starts up here on this G, and that's the 10th fret on the first string and the 12th fret on the second and third strings. And the melody goes 12, 13 on the second string, and it's the 10th fret on the first string. So it just playing the first three strings, and then you do the same thing, except you're going to an E minor. So you play this G chord, but with the E bass, and then you hit the 12th fret on the first string. So it's like this: G, E minor, and then you do the same thing here on the 5th fret. So you're playing this D chord, which is 5, 7, 7, with a D bass, and then you push down on the 7th fret and go back to the 5th for your first string, and then you go down to a G chord. So it's G, E minor, D, G. For the first two measures of the G, the melody is these opening notes are on the 3rd and 4th beat, and then you hit your G for the first. And same thing here, the G doesn't come until you're here. This song starts on the 3rd beat, so it's 3, 4, 1, and that's when you hit your G note for the G chord. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So it starts off with a D on the second string, open E, G on the first string, and then you jump up here to this B, which is the 7th fret on the first string. And you do that playing a G bass. And then it moves down to the C chord, and for that you do a C bass, and your melody is it's 5, 3 while hitting the C bass, so it's C bass, and then it goes to the D chord and you hit the D bass, and your melody is open E and then the D on the second string. So the whole first part is C, D, G. And when you get to this final G, it's an open E and then a G. Since there's a pause here after this G note, I often will play alternating bass just to fill in the gap, like this. For the second part, it starts off with 2 G's. do that is I play single notes and then play this G chord up here on the 7th fret. This looks just like a D, except it's slid up to the 7th. And this G chord, just like at the beginning, starts on the 3rd beat. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you hit your G chord. When you play this G chord, you move your melody up to the 10th with your pinky. So this whole G part is G, and then you move to the C part. And for the C part, I fret the entire 8th fret, because you're hitting a C in the bass on the 6th string and a C on the 1st string. And then you put your pinky down on the 12th fret of the 2nd string. So it's like this. And your next chord is the D chord, and you hit the D bass, and you the 3rd fret on the 1st string, and then pick off. And then back to the G chord. So this whole second part is first 2 parts together. And then the whole thing repeats. Second half, it starts off on the B on the 1st string, and then C, D, and then when you get to this E, you're going to want to bar on the 8th fret, which is the C, because you're going to hit this 6th string C as your bass note. And then you're going to go up to this G chord. And this G chord is just like an A chord, except it's slid all the way up here to a G. And your bass note is the 5th string. And with this upper C chord, you bar the 8th fret, so you get the C for the bass, and your melody is hitting the 1st and 2nd strings, and it can be, or it can be, and then you move up to the G. And there's a pause when you get to this upper G chord, so I usually just strum out a couple of G notes. And then this final run is a G, playing your first note as your melody, and then you go to an E minor, which is just barred on the 12th fret, the first 3 strings, and hitting the E bass. And walk back down to this A minor, which is barred on the 5th fret, hitting the A bass. And then you go to either this D chord, which plays your 5th fret on the 1st string as your melody, or you can play this D chord, which also has the 5th fret on your 1st string as your melody. And then you go back to the song. So the whole second part looks like this. Starting at your B, C, D, E, playing your C chord. And then G chord. And then G, E minor, A minor, D. It's also fun to play this with a metronome because a basic metronome sounds very much like horse hooves clip-clopping. Here it is at 160 beats per minute. This song can also be played the exact same chord structure, just an octave lower. And real quick, the melody for that is in the 1, 2, 3, 4.